Hi, my name is Kelly Ross, and I am your host at Take 5 Tax Tips with Kelly. This video is going to focus on GST, HST. Now, one of the questions I get all the time is, what's the difference? Is it the same thing? Is it two separate things? The answer to that question is both. Two words that you'll hear a lot from me is it depends, and that's going to come up a lot in these segments. And the reason it depends is which province are you working out of? Because these provinces may be harmonized or non-harmonized. The difference between GST and HST is related to the amount that you charge and whether or not a province is harmonized. HST includes a provincial component. So this would be your 5%, which is the GST piece, plus the provincial component for any province you're in where you need to be charging the provincial tax as well. One of the good things about them being harmonized is you've got one filing to do to report and to remit those harmonized taxes for both federal and provincial. So you could be anywhere from 5% if you're in a province like Alberta, for example, where you'll just have to remit the GST portion for the federal portion, or you could be in somewhere like Ontario that's 13%, and you're going to have the 5%, which is the federal portion, and then you'll have that provincial component that's going to bring you up to that 13%. Now you may ask, when do I need to register for GST and HST, or do I have to do it right from the start? Well, it is optional to register right from the start. However, you're not mandated to do so until you've reached the 30,000 threshold within what's called a 4-quarter rolling period. So not a 1-year period, so not within a 1-year calendar period, but 4 rolling quarters. So this could be from January to December. It could also be from April to March. So you need to be tracking when you hit that 30,000 threshold, and then don't panic if in that 4th quarter you've gone over the $30,000. What it is you're required to register for that before that next quarter starts. So once you realize you are reaching that threshold, that's when you need to make that phone call to CRA and register that GST HST number. And to do that, you'll call the main line at 1-800-959-5525, and then they can guide you from there on what you need to do and set up your remitting period. One of the things that's really important is to make sure you stay on time when it comes to when you are filing your returns and remitting any amounts that are due. This is also an area that is very heavily audited, so you want to make sure you are on time. So 3 months after your year end, if you are incorporated, for example, would be when you'd have to file this, unless you are not an annual remitter and you are a quarterly remitter. And that means by the end of each month after each quarter, you need to be doing remittances and filings. Now, if you're sole proprietor business, your filing is due at the same time as your income tax return, which is June 15th. Now, if you owe them any money though, they do want to still receive that by April 30th, which is your timeline for your personal income tax side too and your sole proprietor business side. So you want to make sure you're remitting that. Now, if this is not your first year of being registered for HST, CRA may be requiring you to make installment payments. And installment payments are required anytime you reach over $3,000 of taxes payable in any one of the jurisdictions that you owe them tax in. So for HST, for example, if your bill was over $3,000, even if it was $3,005, they're going to want you to make those installment payments for the following year, and it's always based on what it was that you had done the year before. So if it was $3,000, for example, then you're going to take that $3,000 and you're going to divide it over the 4 periods, and you're going to remit for each one of those. So it'll work out to about $750 each quarter that they're going to expect you to make those payments for. Usually they send you out a notice with respect to those, but not always, and they don't always make it to you. So just know that that's your obligation anytime you owe over $3,000 to make those installment payments. Now, if this is your first year remitting for HST, you may not know if you need to install or not. And the requirement is always based on the year prior. Now, you don't have a year prior, so that means you're not on the hook for making any installment payments unless they have reached out to you. Now, having said that, if you're worried about spending the money, because this is one area that the CRA has zero tolerance because it was never your money, is you want to make sure and go ahead and make some payments throughout the year if you're worried you'll spend it. The only thing is if you have over-remitted, you're not going to receive any of that money back until you file that tax return for that period. And the tax return I'm referring to is your HST return. Now, how about if you're no longer making over the 30,000 threshold in a 4-quarter period? Well, this is where you want to make sure you're deregistering, because from the moment you are collecting HST till the moment you close that account, you are required to collect the HST. So even if you made only $100 in a year, but your HST number was still open, you are required to collect that HST on that amount. And if you don't, CRA will come for you anyway and ask you for it because it was your requirement to collect it. So make sure that if you're not using it anymore, you make that phone call to the same number that you registered at 1-800-959-5525 and ask them to deregister that number for you. Subscribe to our channel for more Take 5 tax tips with Kelly.